North Carolina. Welcome to the University of Dayton Arena, and we're ready for basketball as North Carolina, a 3, takes on George Mason and 11. And Carolina gets on the board first as Rayshon Terry lays it in.
Both these teams, strong defensive teams, play man-to-man.
George Mason with the basketball. Here's Norwood on the baseline. Nice deal inside to Thomas. He comes up short, batted around. Bobby Fraser with the rebound. Carolina comes in this game with a 23-7 record. They're coming off a 69-65 win, and the jump shot for Wes Miller goes down. Miller scoreless against Murray State. Only the 3rd time this season he has gone scoreless. And he gets off to a good start.
That's the best way to get back into the ball game. You're able to get the first shot just where you need to. But again, the defense is going to tell the tale for either of these teams. The one that can extend and deny and create some turnovers is the team that's probably going to have the greatest success.
Lamar Butler with the jump shot on the baseline. But North Carolina answers as David Noel knocks one down. He's coming off a 6.7 rebound effort in 38 minutes against the Racers of Murray State on Friday. The freshman doing a great job for North Carolina down the stretch. Inside Thomas, great catch as it blocked, reloads, and Carolina comes up with the rebound.
Well, the same success Thomas had the other night. He's not having point blank, and there's Tyler Hansbrough running the floor. You know, not just one-dimensional on the blocks and feed it. Tyler Hansbrough will score from a number of areas, including getting up and down, beating his man down the floor.
North Carolina all business after receiving a scare from Murray State. Pull-up jump shot partially blocked. Jai Lewis with the rebound, has it stripped out of bounds, goes off of his knee, and will head the other way. So let's take a look at the players on the floor. Lewis, tremendous talent, big man that can do a little bit of everything. Hansbrough, maybe the top freshman in the country, coming off a 24-point, 9-rebound game against Murray State. He was 8 of 14 from the field.
Well, a script for defending each other was written in the first round for both of these teams. George Mason recognizes Carolina much like Michigan State, the Patriots' first-round victim. They play up tempo, they get a dominant big man, and they get their athletes out in transition. And for Carolina, George Mason, like Murray State, quickness off the dribble, love the three-point shot with solid D.
Hansbrough, what a finish. And Jim Larinaga will have to call a timeout.
Timeout, George Mason.
North Carolina 6 of 7 from the field to take a 13-2 lead. 17:06 to go here in the first. Some of you will take a local station break. North Carolina all business.
They are so much more active defensively.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. I hate when we start the games like that. It's hard to set
stuff rhythm up.
Yeah.
So you got to adjust.
Yeah. Yes. .17:06 to play in the first half. The University of North Carolina seeded number 3 here in Dayton. George Mason, a number 11, 13-2. Carolina defensively looks terrific.
Well, that's what I said at the beginning of the telecast, that it was going to be the team that's able to extend the defense, deny and force the other guy out of its patterns, that was going to have success. And right now, Carolina forcing 2 turnovers, getting out and running, only 1 missed shot, 6 of 7 from the field. Conversely, George Mason, very slow start. Will Thomas, who had a terrific day against Michigan State, 0 for 3, missed 2 point-blank layups. And George Mason just 1 of 5 from the field. Not the way you want to start against a very deep Carolina team.
So let's set it up for you once again. George Mason, out of the CAA conference, beat Michigan State in the first round on Friday. 75-65. It was the first NCAA tournament win in the history of the school. And in that game, they out-rebounded Michigan State 40-24, shot close to 60%, and their defense excellent, holding the Spartans to 43% shooting. On the other sideline, the University of North Carolina, led by one of the great coaches in America, Roy Williams. They are the defending national champions. And Murray State, the Racers, out of the Ohio Valley Conference, a 14, played them tough. But Carolina won at 69-65. So Jim Larrañaga looking on. Lenny, what are the keys to this game?
Well, obviously for George Mason, they need everyone. They're a five-man team on offense. Tony Skinn is back, 13 points a game, but their bench only gave him 3 points against Michigan State. And Carolina just has to value the ball. 17 turnovers versus Murray State in the first round. That gave the Racers extra field goal attempts that helped them stay in the game.
And the Tar Heels have that look in their eyes, as if to say, we aren't messing around with you guys today. George Mason. Here's Lewis.
Again, a very animated defense for North Carolina, doubling Lewis down low and inviting Mason to take the three.
Rayshon Terry with the rebound. He had 9. Pull-up jump shot. No good. Lewis with the rebound. Terry, one of the great athletes on this team. Inside Norwood, left-hand runner. Short, batted around. Wes Miller. Here comes Miller. Hansbrough. Rising fire. Norwood comes the other way. Gabe Norwood, very good athlete, and his coaches say that he's just as talented as a guard as any other player in the country. He has to start believing it, and the Patriots throw it away.
And that was a miscommunication. Campbell expected Jai Lewis to roll to the basket, but you can't anticipate that stuff. You got to make sure that your man is there before you deliver the pass. Another turnover for George Mason.
Now Bobby Fraser to Miller. Miller is a gritty little player that can really shoot the ball. Inside, Hansbrough. Noel. And Tony Skinn, who just checked in, comes up with the rebound. And what a great story for Skinn. Learning experience for him this year. Lewis. Mason struggling from the field. They start the game 1 of 7. Noel again. This time he knocks it down. And North Carolina takes a 16-2 lead. Noel off to a terrific start, 7 points. Common opponent between these two teams. George Mason lost to Wake Forest in overtime, 83-78. North Carolina defeated Wake this season in conference play, 83-72. Tar Heels on an 11-0 run. Skinn. Four to shoot, straightaway 3. Off the glass and in. Tony Skinn.
Tony Skinn missed the first round game, obviously because of the suspension. But coming back into this ball game, pretty nice to hit that first shot, no matter how lucky it is.
He's a spark plug, averages 13 a game. Hansbrough short, and a foul coming up.
Well, Jim Larrañaga reaching to motivate. These kids like that, but right now, Kryptonite's not working.
Inside, Fraser has it blocked. Hernandez in the game, throws it into the front court. Skinn kicks it back to Butler. And don't forget, those of you expecting to see Northwestern State and West Virginia, will get you to that game shortly.
We had a chance right there to see the mobility of big Jai Lewis. Again, a wide body, very nimble feet, the ability to put it on the floor. These two teams actually, well, Carolina and George Mason, not exactly these two teams, but they face each other December 3rd. And George Mason absorbed a 34-point loss, 115-81. Tony Skinn, Jai Lewis played in that game. Jai Lewis actually had 17 points, and Rayshon Terry and Byron Saunders, the only Tar Heels who played in that game. That was Terry's first double-figure game as a collegiate. So they're not exactly strangers.
Here's Lewis inside. Jump hook short. Rebounded. Hernandez has it blocked. Hansbrough picked up the foul. He has one. 16-5. Here's Tyler from Poplar Bluff, Missouri. Inside Noel, feeling it. Banks it in. David Noel, the leader of this team, with 9 points. He's 3 of 4 from the field. Now Norwood turns the corner. Skin fires. And it's knocked out of bounds. We'll head the other way.
Well, the front court of North Carolina really getting it done because they're playing with each other and running the floor. Tyler Hansbrough beats everybody down the floor, and then the favor gets returned to David Noel inside. And again, with these two guys pushing the ball up the floor, playing strong defense, puts a lot of pressure on that back line of George Mason trying to match. Right now, Hansbrough out of the game.
North Carolina, 8 of 14 from the field. Their defense has been stellar. Mason, 2 of 12. Marcus Ginyard comes in. He's a freshman from Alexandria, Virginia. Step back jump shot off the heel.
And when Hansbrough's out of the game, Carolina's going to be very careful that they just don't settle for perimeter shots. Inside out, regardless of who gets it on the block, is still a more effective way to get quality perimeter shots.
Pick and roll, very effective. The high pick and roll for Murray State on Friday, but it looks like Coach Williams has schooled his Tar Heels very well today.
Well, you can expect people to jump out. The screen is set. The guy guarding the screen is going to jump out on top, try to force the ball handler wide. There's Noel right there. Force him wide and allow Terry to recover.
Backdoor, Skin, nice catch, dumps it down, Hernandez, and he gets the roll.
Well, that's good ball movement. Again, George Mason starting to settle down. It looked as though they came in this game relatively tight. And when you're tight, you usually settle for the first easy shot you see.
Wes Miller rims out. Here come the Patriots.
And that first easy shot for George Mason was a three-point shot. They're 1 of 5 from 3.
Hernandez again. And this time he banks one home. 18-9 North Carolina. Roy Williams, what a job he's done this season. Same situation with Coach Larinaga, and he should be considered as a candidate for Coach of the Year when you consider what the Tar Heels lost after winning the national championship last year.
Well, they lost their top 7 scorers, 91% of their points, 87% of the rebounds, 82% of the assists, and still ranked 10th and 12th in the respective polls. Here they are, a 3 seed. And even more importantly, you think that these are freshmen out here and these are babies relatively inexperienced. Against Murray State in the first round, Carolina's last 29 points were scored by 4 freshmen. Hansbrough, Green, Fraser, and Ginyard. So those guys obviously integral parts of this Carolina attack.
Terry to the basket, the runner short, and Lewis with the rebound. Here comes the speedster, Skin. George Mason, 4-14 from the field to start. They were tight at the beginning of this game, but they have settled down now.
Again, though, look like they're going a little too much east-west. Here they go back inside. This is where they start to have some success.
Lewis blocked by Noel. Miller the other way. Terry, rise and fire. Batted out, and Wes Miller tracks it down, but that's over and back. Carolina, 8 of 18. Mason, 4 of 15. Lewis, best athlete on this team. Do a little bit of everything, and he can't get the bounce. Slow start for Lewis.
Lewis getting some shots off the block. He just got to persevere.
Noel again. And George Mason against Michigan State. The thing they did better than the Spartans that really paid off for them was rebounding. They out-rebounded Michigan State 40-24. Right now, the Patriots are out-rebounding Carolina 12-11.
And Carolina, of course, on offense has kind of settled in to shooting perimeter shots instead of inside-out ball movement against George Mason. George Mason, excellent defensive team that can shoot the ball. And Mason is here for a reason. 9th in the nation in field goal percentage defense, 13th in the nation in points allowed. Defense certainly can win championships, at least get you to the second round.
Thomas from Oakland, California. Inside, turnaround jump shot. Sanders too strong. Mason defense starting to tighten up now. Here's Skin pushing it. And he's cut off by Thomas. But on the baseline, that one goes down for Fowler and Campbell. And Fowler and Campbell is coming off 21-point game, tying his career high. He was 8 of 8 from the field against the Spartans of Michigan State. So let's take a quick look at our game summary.
Well, Carolina obviously shooting a better field goal percentage because they're willing to get the ball inside and attack the glass up until the last couple of possessions. And George Mason's starting to feel a little more comfortable. Those 3 turnovers obviously have hurt them a little bit. But in the end, I think George Mason a little bit tight to begin the game. They're starting to settle into playing pretty good defense. And without Tyler Hansbrough, who is back in the ball game, Carolina in the last several possessions got a little lazy offensively.
So subs come in the game for North Carolina. Hansbrough, Bobby Frazier, Ginyard, and Danny Green. Noel also there as the Patriots get into a zone. Skip pass, Green lets it go.
Well, Danny Green is coming of age right here in the NCAA tournament. 15 big points yesterday, comes off the bench firing today. And with his athleticism, his confidence, he is an awfully dangerous guy. Very tough matchup for George Mason.
Was 5 of 8 from the field, 2 of 4 from the three-point line. Danny Green, Campbell, extra pass, Butler rejected. Noel says, get it out of here, with 13 on the shot clock.
Again, we talked about the aggressive defensive team will have the advantage, and David Noel closed very quickly, and he closed with his hands up in the air, so he wouldn't necessarily leave the ground in the event of a ball fake.
Now Lewis, along with Campbell, Skin, Will Thomas, inside, nice play, Thomas.
And again, settling down. Will Thomas, first 2 attempts, kind of rushed him and missed point-blank layups. That time he took more patience.
And Noel throws it out of bounds. 8:28 to play in the first half, 21-14 Carolina. And let's take a closer look at the Tar Heels.
Well, North Carolina, again, among the leaders in the ACC in assists, youthful experience. We talked about last night. The last 29 points was scored by 4 freshmen, the last game, I should say. And Pride, these are the defending national champions. Got a couple of holdovers from that team, but more than anything else, the young men that wear the Carolina blue recognize the legacy.
Now Skin. Cut off by Ginyard, stripped by Ginyard, but Skin picks it up, peels it back. 10 to shoot for the Patriots. Crossover, Skin to the bucket, beautiful. And after trailing by as many as 14, George Mason right back in this game, 21-16.
And the reason is they settled down offensively, getting the jitters out, and defensively they settled in. 2-3 zone seems to be working.
And Murray State, similar success. Now Skin in transition on the hop, rejected Green. North Carolina has led this game by as many as 14, but Mason starting to find their rhythm. 21-16 the score. Gus Johnson, Len Elmore. 3 versus 11. George Mason advancing to the second round by defeating Michigan State. The University of North Carolina defeated Murray State. Mason and Green with the ball. Butler fires. Ginyard with the rebound.
Carolina loves to push it up tempo, run with a purpose. You don't have numbers, you back it out, try your secondary break. That time on the penetration, passed a little too hard by Ginyard. Hansbrough couldn't handle it, and Roy Williams obviously kind of upset with his team. I mentioned before, turnovers, value the ball, so important for Carolina.
3 turnovers for North Carolina. Mason also with 3. Campbell, Skin so happy to be back on the floor after serving his suspension in the first round. Lets it fly. Hansbrough pulls it down. And North Carolina, Lenny, got into trouble against Murray State when they went away from Tyler Hansbrough.
Well, sometimes when Roy Williams takes Hansbrough out of the game, you know, there's no one left to become a real successful inside threat.
.6:27 to play in the first half, 21-16. North Carolina. Tar Heels led at one time by 16, but the Patriots, out of the CAA, managed to find themselves and are back in this game. Hansbrough knocks the ball away. The talented freshman. But Mason will give it up. Coming up on Singular at the half, Greg Gumbel, Clark Kellogg, Seth Davis will take you out for a live look at all the action going on in the NCAA tournament. And they will get you caught up on all the latest tournament news, plus a Singular Naismith update. That's all coming up on Singular at the half.
And Gus, to finish answering your question, why Carolina sometimes goes away from Hansbrough, as I mentioned, when Hansbrough comes out of the game, not really a formidable threat down on the block. And what happens is when he comes back in the game, it's almost as though his teammates are still in a flow without him. And it takes him a while to adjust. Unless Roy Williams calls a play on the bench, it takes him a while to adjust to the fact that Hansbrough's in the game.
Terry forced it up, gets his own rebound. No call, loose ball, now a foul. And it will go against George Mason. Hansbrough fighting for it. Mason on a 10-2 run in the last 6:15.
And again, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they settle down, able to get better shots, cover the board, and defensively they go to the 2-3 zone, which has really forced Carolina to think. It's cut down on their ability to run in transition because the zone gets back so quickly. And Carolina's got to pass the ball and move the ball to find some open shots.
Zone effective so far for the Patriots. Miller, Danny Green from deep. Long rebound picked up by Miller.
Boy, Danny Green doesn't have to look far to get his shots, though.
Miller short. Skin on the move, and he's cut off by Frazier.
Oh, nice job of Carolina getting back. 3 shirts in the paint as Skin tried to make his move.
Carolina cooling down now after a furious beginning. As we approach the 5-minute mark of the first half. Lewis, no success so far, no points. That one way off the mark. Wes Miller in the corner. Short again. And Jai Lewis takes it down. Thomas, he's got Skin on the wing. Finds a cutting Norwood. Skin, great ball fake, lets it go. Both teams struggling. Mason 7 of 26. Carolina 9 of 27. Here's the big man. Gets his own rebound. Get out of my way. Give me the ball. 4:23 to go.
And Gus, what happens when Hansbrough releases the ball on his shot, everybody turns to get the rebound. No one puts a body on Hansbrough.
Very quick jumper when that ball goes up. Tyler Hansbrough. McDonald's All-America, 14 20-point games this season. That's a North Carolina freshman record. Inside Lewis. And a whistle and foul underneath. Coach Jim Larinaga saying that he wasn't punishing Tony Skin, he was disciplining him because he had to realize that there are certain lines you can't cross. Tony Skin served his suspension and now is back on the floor. Lesson learned. 23-16, Carolina. Hernandez back in the game inside. Nice move. Thomas lays it up with the left hand.
Well, that's 4 points for Will Thomas. Significant between he and Jai Lewis. Only those 4 points.
Carolina up 23-18 after leading by 14. Mason on a 16-7 run. Inside Hansbrough. Jump hook. Got it.
Tyler Hansbrough, as you saw from that shot, really takes contact well. That left side of his body absorbs the contact almost like a sponge and allows his right hand to loft that sharp shot into the basket.
He has 8 points on 4 of 8 shooting. Campbell, nice catch. Almost stripped by Noel as he draws a double.
See, Thomas has got to get the ball out of the double quickly and let him reverse it.
Skin. Good defense by Terry. Carolina on the move. Skip pass, reversal, Hansbrough. That's where you want it. Rejected by Norwood, though. Picked up Thomas. Here come the Patriots. Skin has Norwood. Almost lost it.
Well, Tony Skin just looks totally out of rhythm, totally out of sync. Missing that game Friday night obviously has had an impact on him as well as his emotions. But you take a look right here, Gabe Norwood, excellent athlete. He comes and he kind of sneaks Tyler Hansbrough from the weak side.
And as you mentioned, while we were talking before the game, both of these teams received a practice game, in a sense, for each other in the first round.
Well, absolutely. George Mason, Carolina's much like Michigan State, up-tempo, dominant big guy, athletes in transition. And George Mason for Carolina, very much like Murray State, quick and soft to dribble, love the three, and solid defenders. So each had a primer in guarding the other in their first-round games.
Norwood. Now Butler. 6 to shoot. Butler has to hurry up. Lets it go from deep. Hernandez with the rebound. Shot clock resets. Hernandez inside, and he can't get it to fall.
There was some confusion on whether the ball touched the rim or not, but it did graze the rim ever so slightly.
Inside, Hansbrough jams it, and a whistle on the floor. Basket won't count. And the foul called on Norwood. Now the winner of this game will take on Wichita State. Wichita State in Washington, D.C. The Shockers shocking Tennessee, knocking off a 2 yesterday. As Lewis comes in for Larinaga.
And when you look at that Wichita State team, never underestimate the power of senior urgency. You know, guys out there recognizing that they don't want this ride to end, and the seniors coming through.
Wes Miller, deep 3.
Carolina really having success on the weak side, rebounding against the 2-3 zone. Mason bringing a lot of people to the strong side and forgetting about blocking off.
Noel with 11 points in the first half. Here's Lewis, draws a triple team, got his man in the air and banks it home. 7-point lead for Carolina. Hansbrough, and a reach-in foul called against Jai Lewis.
Well, again, you see the ball moves, Miller takes the shot, and they're on the weak side. Just one guy, Gabe Norwood, by himself on the weak side. No one else to block off that board. And when you're playing against the zone, when the ball's taken from one end, that's where you want to be, on that opposite side corner of the backboard, because that's where most of the misses will come.
So Lewis picks up the foul, and that's his first.
Again, very good patience by Carolina right here, and they have been going to Hansbrough as often as they can last several possessions. He's created some nice inside-out opportunities.
Back door, Terry can't hold on. Butler into the front court to Skin. Skin forced it up, no. Norwood saves it, and Wes Miller just takes it away. Shot clock turned off, game clock at 17, and Coach Williams calls a timeout. Frazier, the inbounder, Terry, Hansbrough, Miller, Noel. Frazier with 5 to go. And he fires. And that is it. Carolina has the ball to start the second half, up by 7. Bobby Frazier in the backcourt. Terry, Wes Miller, Noel, and Tyler Hansbrough.
George Mason, we talked about the 2-3 zone they played in the first half, come out here in man-to-man, extended man-to-man trapping. And at the beginning of the telecast, we talked about the team that extends and can force some turnovers can win this ball game.
Hansbrough inside, has it knocked away, picked up on the baseline by Campbell. Carolina led by 14 in the first half. Butler, reverse layup, goes down. He has 4 points, and in the first meeting between these teams in 2003, Butler from Oxon Hill, Maryland, broke his foot in the first 3 minutes of the game as Noel throws it away, intended for Terry. 6 turnovers for Carolina.
Well, George Mason not getting the production that they did in the first round game from their 2 big guys. As I mentioned before, both of them are combined 3 of 11 from the field, only 6 points. George Mason's got to have both Thomas and Jai Lewis involved offensively to put pressure on that Carolina defense.
Here's Lewis rolling in the basket. Beautifully done. Good call, partner.
Right on time.
Now Lewis, 2 of 7 from the field, 4 points. And a kick ball. North Carolina a 3. George Mason and 11.
And again, you see Carolina looking inside, making a concerted effort to get the ball at least in Hansbrough's hand. And Tyler has to respond rather than turn it over.
Hansbrough with 8 points in the first half, 4 of 9 shooting, 6 rebounds. Carolina has now turned it over 7 times.
And that was one of the keys for Carolina. They've got to value the ball. You can't afford to turn it over against an opportunistic team like George Mason, the underdog that feels as though they have nothing to lose.
Lewis wheeling on the baseline, out of bounds. 5 turnovers for the Patriots. Jim Larinaga, 10 years as the head coach at Bowling Green here in the state of Ohio. Ball deflected. Lewis, great hands. Look at him bring it up the floor. Nice pass. And Norwood banks it home. Patriots within 1.
And again, George Mason out of that zone, extended D, looking to double the ball when he goes to the side.
And another steal. Campbell. Mason with the lead. They were shaky to start. Different story at the beginning of the second half. George Mason counterpunching with a 1-point lead. Jim Larinaga's Patriots have taken a 1-point lead after trailing by as many as 14. And Roy Williams wasn't happy when he called the timeout. His team didn't come out ready to play. Coach Larinaga's trap causing some confusion for Carolina.
Well, you saw right there, 5 possessions in this half, 5 turnovers for Carolina. And if I'm Roy Williams, I'd be screaming at these guys too. That is not the way you want to start a half. And again, against a team that's one of the top defensive teams in the nation. 9th in field goal percentage D and 13th in points allowed.
There's that trap again. Hansbrough to Noel, and he dribbled it out of bounds.
All right, we got 6 turnovers and 6 possessions. And Roy Williams now has the scream encouragement. You know, you tear your team down, but at some point you got to build them up. And I think Roy recognizes this is that point.
Lewis slipping in a basketball for an offensive foul. Terrific job by Hansbrough. And Hansbrough with some words for Noel. Let's go. The winner of this game will take on Wichita State, who upset Tennessee, knocking off the 2nd-seeded Volunteers. How do you beat this trap, Lenny?
Well, you need somebody who can do just what Bobby Frazier did, beat the top line off the bounce, force that back line to step up, and the wings to contract to help. And you wind up kicking to somebody for a jump shot. You got to be able to do that, get them out of that trap.
Great shot, Terry posing for a picture after hitting that jump shot. Roy Williams almost jumped onto the court to get him in position.
But they missed the back door by Norwood, who had beaten his man on the baseline.
Butler, 6 to shoot. Butler quick little guard, gets to the rack. We're tied at 30.
Well, that's the athleticism of George Mason. Now they're in the game. Now they're playing with a great deal of confidence. It's bad news for North Carolina.
Jim Larinaga said that the North Carolina fans think their guys are supermen, but we know that we're kryptonite. Here comes Campbell. And a blocking foul called against Frazier. And watch Roy Williams after Rayshon Terry posed for a picture after hitting this shot.
Teams first.
Well, I tell you what, at this point, at this time, as important as this game is, to lose focus for that is unbelievable.
Following Campbell at the line for George Mason, shooting 2.
Unbelievable.
Rayshon Terry, though, so talented, 6'8" junior from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Campbell hits the first. Mason by 2.
And Gus, Danny Green came in for Rayshon Terry. Roy Williams didn't even glance at Terry as he walked back onto the bench.
Hansbrough double team, splits the D. Gets to the bucket, lost it. Lewis is hurt. The big fella hobbling up the floor. And a timeout call by Mason. Campbell hitting the deck.
We mentioned early that George Mason is not awed with Carolina. Back in December of '03, they met Carolina. Lewis, Skin, Butler were on that team. George Mason observed a 34-point loss. I think those guys remember it.
And a look at the tournament summary, your former conference, the ACC, perfect so far.
Well, I mean, they've got some powerhouse teams. North Carolina right now in a battle, but how about the Missouri Valley Conference?
George Mason trailed by as much as 14 in the first half. They're up by 2 now. They've used a half-court trap to start the second half. It's been very effective. Here's Thomas powering it up. And the Patriots take a 4-point lead. Will Thomas with 6 points. Carolina is rattled with this trap.
Well, again, it's forcing them to scramble because George Mason extending. And David Noel obviously finds an open shot. That'll do a lot to loosen up the defense that's really collapsed around Tyler Hansbrough. He's shooting 4 of 11 from the field so far.
The winner here will move on to take on Wichita State, who knocked off Tennessee. Campbell. Oh!
Good.
The
Campbell with
Patriots
the dunk.
with 8 points from Campbell. 3-point lead. Noel, 14 points, 11 in the first half. Now Green posting up, tough shot is pure.
Mentioned before, Carolina, those freshmen, no babies any longer. Against Murray State, the last 29 points were scored by 4 freshmen, and Danny Green picking up pretty much where he left off on Friday.
Norwood turns the corner. Lewis, quick step to the bucket. Nicely done.
George Mason doing a nice job of sealing off the Carolina defender up top, and the passer dropping it down on the baseline where there's no help. Both Lewis just then and Thomas 2 possessions ago able to beat their man on the baseline.
Noel again for 3, and he is getting warm. He's the senior leader on this squad. Ties the game at 38. He has 17 points. David Noel, local kid from Durham.
Carolina now in kind of a 1-3-1 half-court trap.
Inside, nice. Thomas. And Will Thomas with 8 points. Campbell has 8. Thomas with 4 at the break. Campbell with only 2. Wes Miller gets his own rebound. In the corner, Noel. Batted around Norwood with the rebound. Campbell, he's got Butler, jump stop. And he won't get the bounce. And a foul inside called against North Carolina. Rayshon Terry back in for Carolina. Hansbrough now with 3 fouls at the 13:08 mark of the second half.
And a critical time for both teams. George Mason recognizing that you know, defensively, they can really clamp down on Carolina. Carolina has to understand that when Hansbrough's out of the game, they cannot settle merely for jump shots.
Ball knocked away, picked up Ginyard, and he has it stolen away by Thomas. Skip pass, Butler lets it fly. 43-38.
Turnovers are killing Carolina.
Frazier the other way, no. Hernandez pulls it down. Carolina's turned it over 11 times, only 4 at halftime.
You give credit to the extended defense of George Mason.
Now Thomas. Hernandez, quick step to the bucket. Here comes Frazier, the freshman from Chicago. Brother Rice High School. Ginyard, 15-footer. Ginyard with the rebound. Terry can't hold on. Outlet Skin. And he'll hold it up.
Good decision. Tony Skin recognized he didn't have numbers, pulled it back.
George Mason, and look at the difference in their shooting between halves, shooting 82% in the second half. Hernandez got hit in the eye. Hernandez on the bench now, ice on his neck, and he's had an awesome game. 5 points, 5 rebounds. Off the bench. Butler, Campbell, Skin, Fleming, and Lewis. Lewis wants it inside, and he traveled. Good call.
A good ball movement by George Mason against the Carolina zone. Got it where they wanted to. But give Carolina credit quickly surrounding Jai Lewis.
So Quentin Thomas brings it up the floor with Ginyard. Terry, Noel, and Sanders.
George Mason back in their 2-3 zone. Carolina a little bit tentative as they take a look.
Will Thomas comes back in, replaces Will Fleming. Hernandez will be back. He took a good shot to the nose. Hernandez make that Noel driving. 43-40, Mason with the lead, 11:04 to play in the second half. David Noel carrying North Carolina with 19 points.
And he has to, with Tyler Hansbrough on the bench with 3 fouls. Carolina's got to find somebody that's going to carry them offensively. Rayshawn Terry really not effective on the offensive end.
Lewis blocked by Byron Sanders. Carolina led by as many as 14 in the first half, down by 3. Thomas, the kick, Noel again. Sanders kept it alive and tracks it down.
And again, it's the weak side rebounding against the zone that's been effective for Carolina.
And Ginyard buries one. Marcus Ginyard scored over 1,600 points. Was Mr. Basketball in the state of Virginia last year. He's from Alexandria. Cuts the George Mason lead to 1. Lewis again, reverse layup blocked by Sanders, but he picks it up and puts it down.
And that's where Jai Lewis is more effective. When he gets doubled and tripled, he's got to really start looking to move the ball and then position himself for the offensive rebound.
And he comes up with a steal. Campbell straight to the bucket, and he's fouled. Hard foul by Rayshawn Terry. And he'll make Campbell earn it at the free throw line. All right, let's take a look at the game summary by half.
Well, George Mason just shooting lights out in the second half. A lot of those layups off of Carolina turnovers, and you look, 8 turnovers in the second half. And I mentioned before, that's what's killing Carolina. George Mason able to convert at a high level. And again, to compound the problem, if you're Carolina, obviously Tyler Hansbrough on the bench is about to come back in the game, but he's got 3 fouls.
Talking about turnovers, Lenny, North Carolina on the season averaging close to 17 per game.
And I've been able to watch Carolina covering their games throughout the season, and that's really been their biggest problem, holding on to the ball, valuing the ball. But once he's there, Tyler Hansbrough in the middle, you got to find him.
George Mason at 11 with third-seeded North Carolina on the ropes. Lewis inside, no. Rebounded by Hasbro. And North Carolina led by as many as 14 in the first half. Thomas to the basket, and he's fouled.
Well, George Mason has really been able to extend their defense in the second half, create 8 turnovers, and obviously Tyler Hansbrough, only 2 points in the second half, saddled by 3 fouls. Mason's made it very difficult for Carolina to get the ball into him when he's been on the floor in this second half.
Mason on a 27-17 run dating back to the first half.
Look at the triangle surrounding Hansbrough when he received, and that's what he's got to do, kick back out. That's inside out.
Terry missing. Ball snatched out of the air by Will Thomas. Thomas has been great. 8 points today, 4 rebounds. Had 18 points and 14 rebounds in their first round win over Michigan State. His 4th double-double of the season. Norwood lost it. Gets it back. 10 to shoot for the Patriots. High pick and roll. Norwood in the corner. Skin. Off the heel. And he kept it alive.
You like George Mason's patience against the man-to-man. You're looking for that high screen, which opens up a lot of opportunities.
Skin wanting to kick it, but he lost the handle. 5 to shoot. Pull-up jump shot. Campbell blocked by Terry. Now Terry getting to the basket and a blocking foul. He'll go to the line. As Rayshon Terry goes to the line, and he will shoot 2.
I mentioned Rayshon Terry, the most athletic and probably most skilled player on this team. Really important. Carolina's 19-5 when he scores in double figures.
Terry 6 points, 10 rebounds. Make it 7. 1-point game.
And the thing that makes Terry so valuable, obviously, from an offensive standpoint, he becomes that reliable second or third scorer that Carolina needs behind Hansbrough and many times David Noel.
Butler on the baseline, picked it up. Skip past Norwood. 6 to shoot. Campbell straight away. Yeah.
3-point basket following Campbell.
(50-46) Mason as we approach the 7-minute mark, and 11 leading a 3. The winner advances to the Sweet 16 in the nation's capital. Hansbrough, Miller for 3, and he answers.
3-point basket, Wes Miller.
Wes Miller, 2 threes in this game. He's 2 of 7. All of his shots coming from downtown, and he cuts the Mason lead to 1.
And here's Carolina extending their defense, looking to double team. Again, you use the aggressiveness of the defense against it with cuts and back doors. Mason gets a cut, but they travel.
Jim Larinaga, longtime coach at George Mason prior to joining this team. He was at Bowling Green for 10 years. A really positive man. Before the game, he told his team that they think they're supermen and we are kryptonite. Terry turnarounds in the lane and a foul. Now Rayshon Terry starting to go to work.
And well, he should. At 6'8", playing on the perimeter, he's got the height advantage. And right there, you see Fowler and Campbell, who goes at 6'4", and Terry recognizes the mismatch, gets deep inside, a couple of ball fakes, gets Campbell off his feet, and draws the contact.
Rayshon Terry at the line for the
But if Tyler Hansbrough is not an option because Mason has taken him away, Rayshon Terry must be an option.
Terry gets the first. Ties the game up at 50. The junior from Winston-Salem for the lead, and Carolina up by a penny. .6:03 to go in the second half, and we've got a heavyweight showdown here. George Mason and North Carolina, a 3 versus an 11. Mason trailed by as many as 14 in the first half, settled down, took the lead, and Carolina back on top now by 1.
Well, in this half, it began with extended defense by George Mason creating turnovers. Carolina, 5 turnovers in their first 5 possessions.
Butler.
But Carolina battled back, but obviously George Mason not going anywhere. This is a quality team on the defensive end, among the top 10 in a couple of defensive categories in the nation, and just solid overall, with a team with an awful lot of moxie.
Fraser, the freshman. Noel, he's been the senior leader for this team. Terry can't get it to go, and the rebound goes to the Patriots, Will Thomas. 53-51. George Mason advancing to the second round by defeating Michigan State. They shot 60% in that game, out-rebounded the Spartans 40-24. Now Lewis draws a triple team. Somebody's open.
Got to make that extra pass if you're Butler to Campbell to swing the ball to open shooters.
Lewis spinning, and he's fouled. The winner here will take on Wichita State, who defeated Tennessee. A 7 upsetting a 2. Right here we have an 11 trying to upset a 3. Tyler Hansbrough, the talented freshman from Poplar Bluff, Missouri, picks up his 4th foul. And that will send Jai Lewis to the line. First team All-CAA to shoot free throws. First one good.
Well, we talk about the success that Missouri Valley Conference teams have had. I think that term mid-major is going to get put to bed after this tournament.
Second free throw, no. The committee looks really smart now, giving George Mason an at-large bid. A lot of criticism given to the committee this season by some of our guys at CBS.
Hey, the bottom line is, and I've mentioned it throughout this tournament, there are no bad teams out here. You know, you can look at reputation, but the proof is in the pudding between the lines. And Missouri Valley teams have acquitted themselves well. Actually, a number of teams. Obviously, George Mason from the Colonial Athletic Association.
Miller, a deep 3, no. And the rebound goes to Will Thomas.
Boy, what a good defensive sequence for George Mason, extending, not allowing the ball to go inside by pressuring the ball and forcing that desperation shot before the shot clock ran out.
3:52 to go. Mason by 3. Looking for their second NCAA tournament win in the history of the school. Inside Lewis, off the heel. Noel clears it. Noel tripped in the backcourt, no call. Now Fraser looking for the freshman Hansbrough. Tyler picks it up inside. Carolina throws it away.
Well, what an excellent job again by George Mason. As soon as Hansbrough was doubled, he turned and faced, and every green shirt on the floor ran to the paint to try to deflect. And deflect
Butler from deep. And Fraser tracks it down. Here come the Tar Heels. Green in the corner, Noel, and we're tied at 54. Jim Larinaga's team in this ball game after trailing big early. And it reminds me of something Dean Smith once said. Coach Smith said he could never beat Jack Nicklaus in 18 rounds of golf. But on one day, one moment, he may be able to beat him on one hole. Right now, George Mason is trying to win the 18th. Inside, no. And a foul coming up against the Tar Heels as Butler heads to the line to shoot free throws. North Carolina led this game at halftime, 27-20. But George Mason has staged a furious rally. Both free throws good for Butler. Mason with a 56-54 lead. The winner to advance to Washington to take on Wichita State. Inside, Hansbrough.
Yeah, Carolina having a lot of trouble getting it to Tyler Hansbrough. Maybe they're afraid he's going to charge and ultimately be out of the game. He's got 4 fouls. It's been David Noel that has pretty much willed Carolina to this point, only down 2.
Frazier, 8 to shoot. Now Terry, 5 to shoot from deep, short. Butler with the rebound. As the Patriots take a look up at the clock. Up by 2, approaching the 2-minute mark.
Well, that last shot by Terry, he had time to put it on the floor with his size and quickness. Got to put pressure on the defense and not bail him out.
Now Butler to Lewis. He's their best player. Facing up, big fella, rolling off the side rim. No, Lewis gets the rebound, and he's fouled. Jai Lewis will go to the line. David Noel called for the foul.
And that's what I mean by putting pressure on the defense. Whereas Rayshon Terry settled for the jump shot, Jai Lewis turned, face, and went to the basket. Missed the first shot, but gave his team a chance to scramble and ultimately come up with the offensive rebound.
George Mason has a team 8 of 9 from the free throw line. Lewis is 68% shooter.
And Roy Williams really wants his team to continue to push the ball up the floor. Wants to try to beat George Mason back, stay away from that extended defensive trap situation.
Both free throws off the mark, ball knocked out of bounds. Last touch by the Patriots. Noel, the catalyst for North Carolina today, 22 points. He's a senior, but somebody has to step up and hit a big basket. They've taken Hansbrough away. Terry dips, fires off the glass, no. Jai Lewis with the rebound. His 8th.
Well, Rayshon Terry's getting the opportunities. He's just not making the most of them. Again, gets himself in the paint. A lot better job at attacking. And George Mason just milking the clock right now. They're going to maximize every possession, use the clock down to the mark.
58-54. 16 points for Butler. Wes Miller in the corner. Noel. Campbell with the rebound. With under a minute to play. George Mason, they want to take this thing back to D.C. They upset Michigan State. Carolina's on the ropes.
Well, Lamar Butler again, instead of settling for the jumper, puts pressure on the defense, and he can see the finish line.
58-54.
Fowler and Campbell at the line for George Mason shooting.
As Fowler and Campbell goes to the free throw line. He's a 73% shooter on the year.
Gus, very important. Carolina averages 80 points a game, and look what George Mason has been able to do. Limit them to 54 points. People wonder how they got here. Well, they got here because, again, they're one of the best defensive teams in the nation. Roy Williams obviously concerned.
The winner of this game takes on Wichita State. Second free throw for Campbell is good. The Patriots are feeling it right now. Here's Bobby Frazier into the front court. Hansbrough kicks out Terry, lets it go. An air ball tracked down by Frazier, who got the timeout right in front of us. Great decision by a freshman point guard.
We both have said, who would have thunk it at the beginning of the game, but George Mason settled down, played some particularly smart offense, and then beginning the second half, really applied the pressure. Carolina wilted, turned the ball over in their first 5 possessions.
Wes Miller got it!
Three-point basket, Wes Miller.
Carolina not done yet. 34.1 to go. We've got a three-point game in Dayton. Mason up by 3 and 11, trying to knock off a 3. And the game reset. North Carolina out of timeouts. What do you do now if you're Roy Williams in North Carolina?
Well, immediately you set up a defense that at least tries for one steal before you wind up fouling. And if I'm George Mason, I'm Jim Larinaga, I'm putting my best free throw shooters and best ball handlers out on the floor. It's not so much that I score field goals. The shot clock is off. George Mason can hold it for the remainder of the game, but you know they're going to get fouled. So you put your best free throw shooters out. Look at this.
Lewis in the front court, and it's rejected.
Wow. Wow. David Noel didn't give up on it.
And Noel is hurt. Noel, the senior.
Long pass, nobody playing center field, and the hustle by David Noel exemplifies senior urgency. Look at the long pass, no foul. Excellent block, excellent hustle by David Noel. He doesn't want this to end. Not now.
Fourth block. Carolina needs to foul, and they do. So Butler will go to the line. He's a 72% free throw shooter.
22, Wes Miller, his second.
As Wes Miller picks up his second. So Butler shooting 1 and 1.
George Mason shooting the 1 and 1.
Where he is 2 of 2 at the stripe today.
Quite honestly, I was surprised that Will Thomas was out there, 51% from the free throw line. Carolina never fouled him. He was the first guy to catch the inbound.
George Mason up 61-57. One more coming for the senior from Oxon Hill, Maryland. He gets it. 62-57. Frazier in the front court. Takes a 3. Got it again! Carolina down by 2. No timeouts for North Carolina. Frazier guards the ball. Skin looking, and he calls a timeout. So Norwood, the inbounder, the worst free throw shooter on the floor right now. Hansbrough guards the ball. Tony Skin, their best free throw shooter, over 80%. Butler holds on to Lewis. They've got a foul. Skin.
What are they waiting for?
And they'll send Skin to the line with 13 to go.
North Carolina foul number 22, Wes Miller, his third, team's 10th.
So Tony Skin has a chance to ice this game. An 81% free throw shooter. He was suspended for their first round game against Michigan State
Tony Skin
for punching a player during the CAA tournament, a Hofstra player. Trying to make this a 2-possession game. What a moment for this senior. One more coming with 13 seconds to go.
And that actually was the most important one. Obviously in one-on-one, you want to at least give Carolina just a chance to tie and not to win.
Second one is good.
Didn't even touch iron.
Carolina down by 4. Frazier lost it. How about this? George Mason. 6.9 to go. And they're partying in Fairfax. 64-60. Patriots heading to the line. Tony Skin shooting 2.
I tell you, George Mason was here for a reason. One of the top defensive teams in the nation with an awful lot of heart.
65-60. 4 seconds. Frazier a 3. No. Hansbrough with the rebound. There's a new Cinderella. Her name is George. 65-60. Mason defeats North Carolina, and 11 bumps off not only a 3, but the defending national champs.